Welcome to the world of Yuu Asaka, where seemingly simple puzzles aren't quite what they seem. With some of them only having 5, 6 or 7 pieces that you need to fit together, you'd think it would be really easy. But once you start playing around with them, you realise there's some deception going on here. Things aren't quite as easy as you first thought, and there's definitely a bit more of a challenge to them than you'd expect. I've not done any Yuu Asaka puzzles to date, so I thought I'd do in this video a couple that we've got in front of us here. I'll start off with record 6, which is the easiest at 1 out of 5 stars on his difficulty ranking, and assuming, big assumption here, that I managed to get that one fairly quickly, let's move on and try a different one in the second part of the video. So Yuu is a Japanese-based designer, and all of his puzzles have a certain theme to them. So they're all 2D packing puzzles where you've got to assemble the pieces. So we've got the tray, all made out of acrylic, I think, or certainly plastic, and the pieces that you've got to fit into it. So as I mentioned, all of the solutions you would assume would be fairly straightforward. This one, only solution time of 10 minutes is recommended. So we've got 6 rings here, and we've got to fit them into the tray in front of me. Now, I'm assuming this is not going to be too difficult, but also knowing that Yuu Asaka puzzles always have this devious little element where things aren't quite what they seem. Possibly there's going to be a bit of a surprise here. I'm not sure how it's going to go. Let's see if we can get this one solved. Okay, let's get cracking on this one. So, bring in a coffee. Might need that for this one. So I'm assuming this one's not going to be too difficult. You can see there's only 6 pieces and they are circular, getting larger. So you assume that there has to be a certain way that these pieces are all going to fit together. So let's start off with the obvious way. I'm just wondering whether there's going to be some kind of difference in them, whether you have them rotated one way or the other, but we'll see when we get there. So far, only really one possibility all the way here as to how these fit. And then, could this really be this simple? I don't think it can be, but I think I see what's happening. Okay, so what I think is going on is that some of these pieces, for instance this one here, if I was to fit it this way around, the gap would be over here. If I fit it this way around, the gap's in a different position, which means that the next piece that goes on top, not necessarily for this piece, but for the previous pieces, the next piece that goes on top is going to change the orientation. So let's go back and start again. So let's try that one over there. And then this one, should probably be keeping a track of what's going on here. That one has to be always the same. It would be the same whether it's that way or that way, as those pieces look to be 180 degrees from each other. Having said that, I know I'm not 100% sure on that, but there we go. And then this piece, again, that looks like that's, oh no, it could be 180 degrees around the other way. I suppose the solution for this would be to work backwards, wouldn't it? So let's try working backwards rather than building up. So I've just realised this makes no difference, does it? Because I could be doing exactly the same thing here. I think this is just going to be luck if this happens to be correct. No. Okay, so I'm going to try, first up the yellow piece, the gap pointing to about 10 o'clock. Then I'm going to try this one pointing down to 5 o'clock. That one we're saying there's only one option. This one down. I should probably keep a track of this really. Although this is looking quite good. No. So that one and that one have to fit together. like that. So we are aiming for the fourth piece to be around about 7 o'clock or so, I think, is what we want, because that has to be like that. Okay. So we want that one there, which means we need this one. Whoop. To be no. Is there a much more logical way to do doing this? There quite possibly is. I just haven't found it yet. Or we could have it like this, pointing to 2 o'clock, so we could have 7 or 2 basically. Here is where we need it to be. So we need that to be there. We need that one to be about there. So this is the closest I think I've got, although it doesn't really make any difference. You're either right or you're not, and in this case we're not right. So we'll try. Now I'm getting confused as to whether we've tried this or not before. We'll try it like so. Nope. There. No. So that's not right. I wonder if there's something that I'm just completely missing on this that would help. So I'm assuming that these, they're not, are they? They're not 90 degrees. So I thought they were 90 degrees, but they're not, which means that those pieces that I was, so I think actually we were very close before, and I think this might, so where were we before? Is that what was happening before? I think if that goes that way around, there we go. Trial and error, but not overly difficult in the end. I think once you realise that the pieces can be flipped over backwards and forwards, pretty achievable. Okay, so record success solved. That took a little bit longer than I'd expected, but not overly difficult. 1 out of 5 on the difficulty rankings from you. So let's bring in wave 7. Let's see if this one is going to be a bit more of a challenge. So this one is rated as 4 out of 5. We got 7. Oh, these pieces are pretty cool. There's transparent acrylic pieces here, the orange pieces, and we've got to try and fit those into the tray here. So let's get started. So we've got 7 of these, I'm assuming, 7 that we've got to fit in to this tray. So they fit in pretty nicely, like flush, and then they've all look as if they're slightly different. I don't know if any of these are the same. A couple of these look quite similar. Don't seem to be quite the same. Right, so we've got to fit them in, and I'm going to make a very educated guess and say that they're not going to fit in, in a row. So my first thought would be we need to go at an angle with at least one of the pieces, probably more. So how could this work? Let's just have a quick look at the solution. Solution time 1 hour on this. We might be here a while. So probably want to do this in a bit more of a methodical way. So just check and see. None of the pieces are the same So they all look to me to be slightly different. A couple pretty similar but not quite the same. So probably want to put the thicker piece into the corner. While those fit together in a very satisfying way, I'm going to guess that they're not supposed to be together like that. With these kind of puzzles, what you need to do is try and use up as much of the space as possible. Could we have something like this? So I have to say, packing puzzles are not my forte or my favourite kind of puzzle. They're quite fun and definitely very satisfying once you've got the solution down. I find them very frustrating as well sometimes when you're trying to work out the angle you're trying to take to get it solved, rather than just... My approach is usually just brute force. Try until you stumble across the solution. So they use up, when we first did it, they used up very much, in fact they use up almost the entire, there really isn't much free space on this at all when we piece them together like this. There's really not much free space, so it looks like we're using, it's going to be using almost the entire frame from what I can tell. We've got this and this to fit in, so it doesn't look like there's going to be many gaps at all in this, which is strange, because I wouldn't think could possibly go for something like this. Too much space. I'm not going to say I'm 100% certain, but I would be fairly sure that we're going to have some pieces at an angle on this, but as soon as we start to put them at an angle, we're just creating empty space, which is not really what we're wanting on this particular puzzle. So but it is a Yuu Asaka puzzle, so there's probably going to be some kind of way of doing it that isn't as straightforward as you think. I don't know if anybody else has this, but quite often when I'm doing these kind of packing puzzles, I'll do something like this. I'll get 6 pieces in out of the 7, trick myself into thinking that all the pieces are in there, and I've actually completed it, and then realise that there's actually another piece to fit in. Happens every single time I try a new packing puzzle, I think. It's just the small amount of free space that's going to be in these is really confusing me as to how we're going to fit any of them together. So I'm just going to see if I can make some pairs of these pieces that fit together. If you've got any ideas at this point, please do drop them in the comments. Let me know if you've managed to see what I should be going for before I do. Sure, a bit of sandpaper and that would have fitted in there. That doesn't seem right. One. There. This one. No. Then get that one. Oh, 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 yes. Ha. There we go. So yeah, you kind of have this idea of how it's going and thought it was on the right track, but it's just that slight shift of thought, slight shift of idea, and there it is. Nailed it. Cool. Well, that was pretty tricky. I don't know how long that took, but it was a fair old while. A lot of trial and error. Didn't really have much of a technique beyond figuring out that we wanted this kind of layout, but overall, very fun, challenging puzzle. I'm definitely going to be trying some more of the Yuu Asaka ones now, see how they are. Whew. Let me know, did you enjoy this one? Do you want to see some more Yuu Asaka puzzles? Do you want me to see struggle over some more of these packing style puzzles? If you do, I'm more than happy to have a bash at them for you. That's it for today's video. If you want to check out more puzzle videos like this one, then take a look up here for the Houdini video that I solved recently and the Lego puzzle, which was my first ever Lego puzzle box that I tried. So check those videos out if you want to see some more puzzle videos, and hopefully see you in the next one.